All calls are logged and recorded and may be listened to by a member of prison staff. If you do not wish to accept this call, please hang up now.
Hello.
Ricky, you alright?
Hello, mate.
How are you?
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Good. Welcome to the show, mate. I've got Andy with me.
Hello, Ricky.
Hello,
you all right?
Andy.
Hello, buddy. You all right?
Yeah.
Right, Rick, so to start off, can you just run through very quickly what you were actually convicted of, just to start?
Yeah.
And the sentencing behind it.
Yeah. There's quite a few. I might actually miss a few out. Believe it or not. There was the murder, which was a 28-year. There was 3 attempted murders, which was 16 years for each of them. And there was the armed robbery, which was 7.5 years. Guns, which was 5 years. Perverting the course of justice was another, I think it was 4 years. Conspiring to steal from an unknown person, unknown goods of an unknown value. I got 4 years for that. I got another 4 years for offering a witness money to not attend court, and I think that's about it.
So quite a lot.
And so it all running in like the 28 year though. So although it seemed it all run concurrent with the 28 year.
So what was the actual total number like?
I know I should know, but I obviously it was many years ago, and I can't recall. But it was clocking up over like 50, 60 years or so in total. It all run concurrent with the 28.
So before we go into detail, what I want to explain to the viewers is that obviously you're effectively charged with all of this, but there was a lot more to it. But the reason why we got Andy here is because Andy was guarding the what we know is of the supergrass, which was Damon Alvin. So you've got yourself that was convicted and sentenced, and then you've got Andy who was basically protecting the person that was against you. And just tell us a bit about what it was like in the dock, how you felt. You know, it was theatrical, it was over the top. Like, wasn't there something like 35 armed response in the actual courtroom?
Yeah, it was definitely a circus. It was a big show, and they definitely put a good show on. I'm not sure if that's like Andy would probably be able to ask this. I mean, is that normal procedure when there's no intelligence to support that any harm was going to come to that witness, or was there intelligence that there was harm going to come to Damon? I'm not sure, but it did definitely paint the picture.
Let's ask Andy. Let's ask Andy. Andy, is that normal?
Good to talk to you, Rick. So obviously this is the first time that we've spoken or set eyes, if you like. No, and obviously hindsight's a great thing. But obviously now hindsight, and now that I'm out and other things that I've seen, I think, as Rick says, this was a circus.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember me, Rick, but I was with Damon and I sat behind him when he was giving his evidence, and I was going down and I'd sit with him in custody at Chelmsford during the time when he wasn't up in the dock giving his evidence. I was down below. But no, I've never seen anything like it. And I don't think there's been anything like it since.
But it was like, sorry to interrupt, but it was like that, like you said to me earlier, it was like that outside the courtroom as well. It wasn't for Rick inside, it was outside too. They made a massive show.
So Rick was brought in, you was brought in by the Jankel every day, wasn't you, in the armoured car, I think? Rick?
I think it was more Damon that was brought in, sort of like in that sort of. But all I know is when I arrived at the court, it was obviously there was armed response all guarding the courts. So I think it was more to do with protecting or to Damon rather than the escort of me. I'm not too sure on that.
Should we let's go back to the beginning, Rick? Like, so this all started basically with a guy called Damon Alvin. You basically becoming pretty much what, business associates or friends or like?
Yeah,
what?
it was a little combination of the two. Obviously, I mean, I like Damon, and I'm obviously he must have liked me as well. But yeah, our it was very much of a business sort of enterprise between me and Damon. That was the connection and the friendship sort of come along with that.
Yeah.
So it started off with that, but because this is such a big, complex case, it's very hard to know where to start with it.
Yeah. Well, let's start with. So your associates, I think what I'd like to do is hear from you because obviously there's a lot of speculation, rumours, everyone has their own opinion, and then there's the facts of actually what's happened. So let's just stick with you guys were associates, you become, I guess, close friends, but because of business. But that kind of led to the demise, really, because you and Damon working together became a bit of an issue, which obviously led the police to look at both of you ideally, or was it more Damon and then do you think it was just a combination?
It was. I mean, obviously they was aware of what we were both up to. They was obviously aware of that, and I think it all starts off. I mean, it might just be easier just to sort of go in sort of like in chronological order of how things sort of unfolded.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to be very flip-floppy with trying to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it all started because there was initially there was the Tretton incident, which was back in '98. Where it sort of like all sort of started, the police taking interest into me, and then obviously Damon, and then things sort of just panned out the way that they did. So I don't know if you want me to start sort of with that, or I'm not really sure where to go. I'll let you ask.
I think what I'd like you to do is, I think if it's all right with you, if you'd be happy to. It's just to talk us through, just to give us a bit of understanding, because obviously anyone watching maybe has no clue about anything.
Yeah.
And the reality is, the end result of all this is you were served a massive sentence, which in a lot of people's views was definitely not justified, and it was based on effectively a friend stroke business associate basically giving a life or death choice decision and going, actually, it weren't me, it was all Rick, and but that had been unfolded for years, as you'll explain in due time. But I think if you're okay with letting us know, let us into your world before or during, like what was you up to? Because I think it's important that we don't. Are you okay with saying, like, I was involved in crime and I understand why, I was looked at. But I just wasn't a part of this, and I think that's probably a better way of doing it. And then I'd like to hear when Andy was in court what Damon was like and what Damon was saying, and what Damon was like, because obviously I don't know if you know this, but Andy used to have to escort Damon back to his witness protection. Again, Andy will fill this in, but from what I know, it's just so it'd be getting your perspective. But I do think it's important we understand where you arose from in the world anyway. Does that make sense? And then we'll go into.
Can I interject and just one thing?
Yeah, sorry, Andy wants to say something.
Just so you know, so there's a lot of rumours that we want to dispel as well, don't we, with what's gone on. But from my point of view, when I was in the police on firearms and doing all that sort of thing, it's fair to say that you and Damon, again, it was a perception of us, and particularly me, that you two were best friends, and that you was the new up and rising Ronnie and Reggie Cray. So from our point of view, that's where you was placed. Does that make sense, Ricky?
Yeah.
In there, and obviously, I just want to get that in at the start.
So basically, Essex Police, which, again, I'm not a massive fan of Essex Police. We know they're corrupt, but they basically portrayed an elevation of crime that Ricky and Damon were becoming so powerful.
The
Would
religion-
that be the correct perception?
Totally, yeah,
Right, okay. So there you go, Rick. You've heard it from the horse's mouth. That's what they were coached into believing from the start.
Yeah.
So yeah, go on.
Yeah, so it was. Well, I can tell you a little bit, obviously, about with Damon. Damon was originally charged with Dean Bichel's murder, stood trial for Dean's murder. 2 weeks into his trial, he lost a lot of legal arguments. Things weren't looking favourable. And he basically said, well, I admit that I was there. It wasn't me, it was Ricky. And I'll tell you about all the other criminal activity that he's involved in, other shootings that Ricky was involved in, and corrupt police officers that was working with Ricky, and et cetera, and the prosecution basically stopped his trial, interviewed him, dropped the charge of murder against him, charged me with that murder, and then used Damon a year later as a star witness against me for the murder that he once faced. It's never been done in British history before. Normally, if someone's defence who's on trial for murder is it's someone else, that's normally, well, that's their defence. You've got to see if the jury believes that. You don't stop someone's trial just because that's their defence.
Yeah.
But it happened in my trial, which has never been done before.
Yeah. But so again, correct me if I'm wrong, but Damon had been setting this up for some years, hasn't he? Because he was nicked for distribution of cocaine, or he had a parcel or something. He got caught with something, didn't he?
Yeah, well, 2 years before Damon was charged with Dean Bichel's murder, he was caught with about just over a kilo of cocaine. And to get a reduced sentence on them drugs, he was given intel about me. And if you were to see them interviews, he portrayed me to be sort of like Al Capone, in order to get a reduced sentence on them drugs. And during that time that he was given information about me, the police suggested to him that I killed Dean and that he was there, and that he didn't want Dean to be, like Dean was like a brother to him, and he didn't want it to happen. And Damon obviously was hearing all of this, and then he didn't give any input on that. He didn't say, yeah, you're right, or anything like that. He was just listening to what the police had to say to him. And then it was just sort of like, softly trying to, lure him in and stuff like that. And obviously he heard this information, but he didn't get involved with like any information saying that's true or any of that business. He just listened. And then when he was when he was on trial for murder, he then obviously completely relied on that piece of information to support that obviously he didn't commit the murder. So he was basically really relying off of what the police told him the year before to get himself off the murder charge.
Did he ever tell you that? Did he tell you the information the police were giving him?
Yeah. As soon as the police suggested that to him, I received a phone call. I think it would have been within a few days of that information given to Damon, telling me the police are suggesting that it's you, Rick, and I actually got my solicitor to phone up Gravesend Police Station and say, we understand you're suggesting that Ricky's involved in this. Would you like to interview him? And they said no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it true that your solicitor was also raided, or is that a rumour? Is that...
No, Damon said that I had a corrupt solicitor working for me.
Right.
But she's never been questioned about it. She's never been questioned or interviewed or anything. She's still in practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So the why were okay? So let's start with, it's difficult, isn't it? There's so much stuff. There's so much to unpack. But the Tretons, people, people are going to be unaware of, or maybe they are aware of who they are. I don't know. But why were they targeted? Like, what's your thought process behind that?
I must have only been about 18 at the time, and I ended up in prison for a can of CS gas. I was stupid, and I let it off in an open area. Getting 9 months. It's just young and stupid. And when I was in Chelmsford, one of the Tretons, he was a friend of mine. He owed me. It weren't loads. It was about £800. So I've asked. I couldn't get hold of Steve, who owed me this money. So my friend Malcolm Walsh, that lived literally just the next road away from this Stephen Tretton, I've just asked Malcolm that, when you're passing, can you just pop in to see if Steve's got me money? So he's done that. Steve wasn't there. And I think it was the same day or a few days later, Malcolm's come out of his flat and he's seen the window smashed on his car. And so he's asking his neighbours, did you see anyone around my car? And one of the neighbours has said they see one of the Trettons around this sort of time. But it was just unfortunate that one of the neighbours that was saying this to Malcolm absolutely hated the Tretton family because their daughter was dating one of the Trettons and they wasn't approving of that. So Malcolm's just put the two together, gone round the Tretton's house and basically barged through the front door, grabbed Steve round the neck and literally just pinned him against a wall, telling him that he wants the money for the vehicle that is damaged and blah, blah, blah. And then Terry Watkins, which was it was a stepfather to the Tretton family, he got wind of what Malcolm did to his Stephen. So then what Terry done is Terry went to Malcolm and basically told Malcolm to leave his family alone. And they had a bit of an altercation, and then Terry stabbed Malcolm and actually killed him.
Wow.
And Terry done that in front of Malcolm's kids as well, and they was only...
So it was on his doorstep? Or
yeah,
oh, wow.
Yeah, more or less.
Wow. Okay. So, and that led to some obviously bit of rivalry.
So this said, but when I before the actual the stabbing actually happened, when I found out that Malcolm had gone around and half strangled Stephen, I said to Malcolm that the Trettons would have never done that. They would have never smashed your window. They knew who you were, Malcolm. They're not stupid. They would have never done it. And I said that, the neighbours, unfortunately, hate them, and they've just
used it as an opportunity.
Yeah, and it is, but it was too late then. That Terry Watkins was angry about what happened to his family and took revenge upon Malcolm.
Where was that, in Southend?
So that was...
was that in Southend, Rick?
It was in Southend, yeah.
Right, okay.
And then when Terry stood trial for murder, he basically obviously tried, as his line of defence was that me and Malcolm were bullying his family and making them sell drugs and demanding money from them. And this was his defence to say why he did what he did.
Yeah.
So I think that was the first bit of intel that the police obviously come across was Terry.
So basically that led to intelligence that you are a drug dealer, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah,
which I was, but as far as threatening the family and making out that we were, a lot. The thing is, Malcolm wasn't a drug dealer. He only went round there to see if he could collect some money on my behalf. It had nothing to do with Malcolm. He was just doing me a favour.
Yeah, that's
a crazy thing.
Yeah,
Malcolm had no involvement in what I was doing.
So what did that lead to after? Because obviously we got to get to the Tretton shootings.
So and then what happened is obviously that after Terry had killed Malcolm, the police went to see a number of Malcolm's associates and said to me included, as well as others, that if anything happens to the Trettons, you'll be paid a visit you'll be first you'll get a visit from us straight away.
Was Damon on that list as well, or was Damon nothing to do with it?
Damon wasn't on that list.
Okay.
He wasn't, no.
Right. Okay. So basically, if you'd made a move on that particular day, you was getting arrested. There's no two ways about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And what? Yeah. What did that lead to then?
Then on the anniversary of a year later after Malcolm's death, the Tretton family were shot at their house. The door was kicked in, and and they were all shot a year later. And
shot by means of what? Like a single shot, a shotgun?
The door was kicked down, and it was a pump action shotgun, and everyone in the front room was shot. People lost hands, and pellets were in people's faces. No one died, but people did lose hands. I think putting their hands to protect their face. So people, one person lost like a good part of their hands.
And is it correct there was two people? They said there was two shooters in that. Or?
Yeah, there were. Yeah,
right. Okay.
There were two people. Well, they were saying that the witness said there were two people that went in the front door, and one of them started shooting. But a few witnesses did say there were two people there.
Okay. So did that lead to any retaliation from them? Did they think they know who did it, or they had no clue?
Well, what happened is after that, about 4 hours after, I was arrested, and I was swabbed and stuff like that, looking for ballistics, and I was on bail for a few months with no further action taken.
Because you had no gun residue, or there's nothing to tie you into it, right? Yeah.
So there was no residue on me, and then that happened in '98, and then in '99, that happened in '99, and then in 2001, there was the Boschel murder.
Okay, talk us through that. Who is Dean Boschel? Right.
Sorry, do you mind?
Sorry, Andy wants to say something.
So for those two in there, it was always my perception that for the Tretton shooting was Damon and Dean went and did that.
Rick?
Yeah. My involvement was I supplied the second vehicle in that offence, and I was fully aware what was going down. And I just knew that when that happened, they was going to pay me a visit. So, I wouldn't have been stupid enough to sort of put me in on a chopping block, knowing that I was going to get a knock at the door.
Sorry, did you say you knew? Did you say you supplied a second car and you knew it was happening, or are you saying that's what you were alleged to? Right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And so my involvement in that was that. So you got to own it, because I was part of that. It doesn't matter if I played a small part or not. I was still involved.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying. So what went on from that? So how did Dean Boschel come into the equation of all this?
Well, Dean was Damon Alvin's mate, and they were friends. And I don't know if you call it friends. It was more of a useful.
I was just about to say, didn't he just use him?
Joey.
Yeah.
A useful Joey. Yeah. A useful Joey. And he used to just get him doing stuff for him, and it just worked like that. Really, that was a friendship between them two. As for me and Dean, I had even my phone records. That you can look at the Dean's phone records. They show that he never called me once, or I ever called him, which would have been the case if we were friends. None of Dean's girlfriends ever seen me and Dean together. If I ever see Dean, it was purely because I walked into a pub when he was there with Damon. So there was no friendship between me and Dean whatsoever.
Okay. So
Yeah.
with Dean, he was, and this is well known. He was an informant for the police. I don't know the details of how long, but it was well known that he was an informant, and Damon found that out, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, this all come about actually only on the night of the murder that only come to light for Damon.
Do you want to talk us through the murder, and then we'll get to the court?
Yeah. Well, you've got my version, and then obviously you got Damon's version. So, which one is you? Do you want me to talk you through?
Yeah, what I think it'd be best is if I think just go from your version and then explain how Damon managed to use it, and obviously and tell us how he gained all that knowledge as well.
Yeah, well, me and Damon were buying from the same person, buying drugs from the same person. I'm just going to call them like Mr. A and Mr. B.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes it a bit easier.
Yeah.
Well, they offered us a deal that if we paid up front for their driver, and the drug run was successful, would get a discount price on the drugs, and we took them up on the offer. It was successful. I bought my share. Damon bought his share. So what Damon did is he rented a flat in Elmslie Drive. He paid the rent and the deposit for that flat, and he let Dean Bichelle live there in the safe house. And the only people that knew that what was there was Damon and Dean. Nobody else knew.
Sorry, was your stuff there too, or did you have yours separately?
No, it was nothing to do with me.
Okay.
No. And Dean ended up having house parties there and showing people what was there, giving it away, selling it, and before long it wasn't a safe house, and the door was kicked in and it was robbed.
Do they know who robbed it? Or?
No,
right,
no,
okay.
They don't. No. Well, Damon explained this to like Mr. A and Mr. B, and wanted some more produce, to pay off the debt, because he couldn't afford to pay what went missing. They've basically said no, that we're not doing it, and they become aware that Damon has scammed people in the past as well. So they weren't sure whether or not they were being fucked over.
So sorry, before we go any further, so something this just come to mind. So you paid yours up front and Damon didn't, or sorry, because I thought the deal was done on you'd only get a discount if you paid up front. No, we paid for the driver. We paid for the driver. That was just like $5,000 each. Right.
So we paid for that. That was successful.
Right.
And then when it was successful, what was given to us, you get a discount price, but that was on loan.
Right. Okay. Now I get it.
That was on loan.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was so he owed Damon had about $40,000. He still owed about $40,000.
Right.
And he couldn't afford to just pay out that money, so he was asking for some more produce on tick. And they were refusing to give him any more. What Damon then had to do, he had to go to other people to buy produce to sort of keep his business afloat. And Mr. A and Mr. B weren't sure if this was Damon still selling their stuff. So they were really unsure, whether or not Damon was really fucking them. So what they did is they basically they wanted to have a meet with Damon to sort of have a proper discussion about what really went down. And Damon wanted Dean to be on the meet as not insurance, but to support the alibi that they really were robbed. Anyway, Dean was refusing outright to go and meet with Mr. A and Mr. B, to the point where Dean was that scared that he actually got up and moved out of the flat, the safe house, and moved away.
Sorry, Rick, can I just ask a question? Is Dean telling the police all of this while this is happening as well, or is he not? Like, how is it working with him being an informant as well as doing this? Or you guys don't know at this point?
Yeah, no, he didn't admit to. Obviously, he wasn't giving this because I think that Dean couldn't have possibly given information about this because he would have been incriminating.
Yeah. So
he left this part out. Dean did.
Right.
So he didn't mention this, but he did. By this point, he had given information to the police saying that Damon had shot the Tretons, and Damon was bragging about it.
Right.
So he did tell the police that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Andy's confirming. Yeah, go on. Sorry. I said Andy's confirming.
Yeah, so he gives that. But he also said to the police that I was involved as well in that Tretton. So he did say that I was involved in that. But he did say that Damon specifically was the one that shot him, and Damon was the one who was bragging about it.
Right.
But he didn't admit that he was involved in stealing the car for that job. He didn't admit that he was involved in the getaway. So Dean sort of was very reluctant, half-truths, and missing out a crucial part about his involvement in that as well.
Right. Okay.
So yeah. So obviously he didn't admit that he stole one of the getaway cars as well.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So back to basically the stuff going missing in the flat, where the drugs going missing in the flat. Damon didn't want to meet up with Mr. A and Mr. B, as I said, and this really, really pissed Damon off to the point where. Especially when he'd become aware that it was basically Dean's fault why the stuff was stolen, because the only two people that knew that stuff was there was him and Dean.
Yeah.
So Damon's grabbed Dean by the balls and squeezed him so hard, he's actually put Dean in hospital as a result of that. And what Damon's had to do, just to get Dean on this meeting with Mr. A and Mr. B, Damon's basically said to Dean, there's a cannabis farm in Chelmsford. If we rob it, the money we make from there will pay off the debt. But this was all fabricated. This wasn't true. This was just merely a hoax just to get Dean on the meeting with Mr. A and Mr. B. It was nothing more than that. So that was basically that was where it left on regards to like Dean and Mr. A and Mr. B for that moment. And then when you talk about the night of the murder, what happened on the night of the murder, me, Kevin, Damon and Kate were all together in the Woodcutters pub that night.
Who are the other two people, Rick, if you can just let us in on that? Can you let us in on who those two people are in? Because there's two other people, Kate and someone else you just mentioned. Like, who are they to you?
Oh, Kevin and Kate are friends.
Okay.
Friends of mine. Kevin is Malcolm Walsh's brother. Right. And Kate was basically Kevin's girlfriend.
Okay.
And they were just associates of mine and Damon's.
Right.
So we was in the Woodcutters that night, just all socialising together. And Damon had to go and meet Mr. A and Mr. B to sort out their issue. It was about 9:30. I think Damon left the Woodcutters pub to go and meet Mr. A and Mr. B and collect Dean. But we all agreed that we was going to meet back around Kevin's after the pub had closed. So Damon had left the pub. I left. I think I might have went home for something to eat. But Damon did ask me to collect him from his house in about an hour's time. He lived in Rochford. And then Kevin and Kate went to Kevin's flat. And I think this was the first bit of evidence that was detrimental against Damon, because when he spoke to the police, he said when he left the woodcutters, he travelled home, but the cell site analysis showed that he travels into Southend to where Bashir was.
Right,
I remember that.
Yeah, so that was the first bit of evidence, and then Damon went and collected Dean. He took him to the actual workshop, which was Danny Langley's workshop, which was where the meeting was taking place. When they arrived there, when Dean see Mr. A and Mr. B there, he just panicked and he tried to run out the workshop, and Damon stopped him, put the door to. Mr. A and Mr. B could see how nervous Dean was, and realised they'd get more out of Dean than they would Damon, so they've asked Damon to leave. Damon's said to Dean that he was going around Kevin's, and that after the conversation had finished to give him a call. Damon's left. He's went home, where I've collected him shortly after. So when Damon's gone home, I've collected Damon from his house, and then I drove him to Kevin's and Kate's, where we're just socialising all together. And I can remember that when we was in Kevin's, that Damon was expecting a phone call from Dean. So he was looking for his phone. He couldn't find his phone. So he asked Kevin to drop call his phone to see if it would ring in the flat. He went straight onto voicemail. So the second bit of evidence against Damon was that if you were all together in that flat, why was Kevin phoning Damon's phone? So the prosecution used that to try to support that me and Damon wasn't in Kevin's Walsh's flat.
right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I might have left about half 10ish, and Damon stayed there with Kevin and Kate.
Can I just ask you one question before we go any further? I don't want to disrupt your flow, but just just to be clear, was Damon boasting about Mr. A and B basically giving it whatever? Because obviously Damon sounds like he would always boast about his events. Yeah, so obviously this is what got everyone in trouble. So in that flat, while you're all together, was Damon saying, "Oh yeah, this has gone wrong"? And did you all know the situation, or was no one any wiser?
No. I mean, Kevin and Kate were none of the wiser.
Yeah.
And as I said, it was really no more than, there was no premeditation on anyone's behalf,
Right.
mine, Damon's, or anyone. It was just it was none of my business. They actually got robbed, not me. It wasn't my stuff. It was their issue, their problem.
Yeah.
And as far as and even Mr. A and B, even talking to Dean really wasn't. It wasn't Dean. It wasn't Dean. It was Damon that was the one who owed all the money, and Damon was the one basically caused all the problems. But because of how Dean was acting when they first see Dean, they thought, well, if Damon's fucking us over, we're better off talking to Dean about what went down, because they're more likely to get, the truth out of Dean.
And I guess
So that's
Damon
why they
ain't
wanted
going to
to
boast
take.
about something that's going wrong. It sounds like he only boasted about stuff that went right. So it kind of made sense, didn't it?
Yeah, well, it should have been no more than just a discussion.
Right.
It should have been no more than a discussion that was taking place in the workshop.
Yeah.
So with regards to I've left, but in the workshop, what's happening in the workshop is that Dean's they've got Dean into an interrogation, so they've basically tied Dean to a chair, and Dean's admitting that that he was selling it, that he was giving it away, that he did have house parties there, and he admitted that some of the stuff was actually hidden in the allotments, which was just next to Dean Bichel's flat, and just round the corner from the flat, the safe house.
Yeah.
So what one of them did is, like, I'll just say Mr. A stayed with Dean while Mr. B went to the allotments to try to find their produce. So Mr. B was looking about in the allotments.
Why would he think it's there, Rick?
Sorry?
Why would Mr. B think that the drugs were there? Is that what?
Yeah, because during the interrogation, Dean admitted that he did sell some, that he was taking it, and that he did take some of their stash.
Okay,
and that he did. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, what? And he'd put it in the allotments.
Yeah, he hid it. Yeah, he hid it in the allotments.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So Mr. B was rummaging through the allotments, like, so Mr. A and Mr. B are constantly on the phone trying to locate where it was, but it's a big place. They weren't really getting very far with it. So Mr. A's getting really pissed off with Dean, and he squirted him with ammonia in the face. And I believe at this point that he probably pulled the gun out and put it to Dean. And just out of pure panic and believing that his life was probably in danger, that he's basically said that he's admitted that he's an informant, and said that if anything happens to him, the police are going to know where to look and who's responsible. And I think this was purely done just to save his, he was in fear for his life.
Yeah.
So it stopped the interrogation there and then, and they wanted Damon back at the workshop to find out, but they didn't want to call Damon because they was concerned about phones being tapped.
Yeah.
So Mr. B left the allotments and used the phone box outside the allotments to call Damon's wife.
Right.
So they called Damon's wife and basically just told Damon's wife what they discovered about Dean, and asked her that if she could go and collect Damon from Kevin Walsh's flat and bring him to the workshop. So what Claire's done, Claire's left work straight away. She's gone home. She started emptying the house of anything that shouldn't be in the house, anything illegal basically. So after she's done a bit of a spring clean, she's gone to collect Damon from Kevin Walsh's flat, and then brought Damon to the workshop, where all three of them started to interrogate Dean. And they ended up taking Dean back to the allotments, and now they're all rummaging for, what Dean said, that, they couldn't find it. It was, and then Dean was changing his account about being the informant, what he had said, and it was getting frustrating for all three of them. And then Damon ended up hitting Dean round the head with a rounder's bat. And then Mr. A actually shot Dean in the head, and Damon used the same gun, put the second one in him. Mr. B refused to get involved, and then Damon put the third shot in him.
Where was you while this is all going on? Are you still at the flat?
No, I was at home by this time.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So Mr. A and B, they've never been identified or never brought into this.
No, they was never mentioned. Never mentioned in any intel or anything like that. Damon never mentioned. They weren't in the case. This is what was quite funny when me and Damon used to laugh when we was in prison together, because they were saying to Damon that I was responsible, which me and Damon knew they didn't have a fucking clue when they were suggesting that.
Yeah.
And then when they charged Damon with a murder, it was like, well, what is it? 1 minute it's me, then it's him. And what we know to be the truth, they was barking up a complete wrong tree. So we thought, the evidence was completely wrong, that this would never make a conviction. So when Damon actually stood trial for the murder, when they started to say to Damon that Damon lost all the illegal arguments during his trial. When you start the trial, they try to introduce new evidence or evidence they want to disclose to the jury. and they were successful in the legal arguments of prosecution. They could prove motive now because they were allowed to show the jury all of the information, the informant sheets from Dean Bichelle
right,
about Damon.
yeah,
And then Damon's QC also told Damon that they could potentially bring further charges against him and bring up other offences, which would be the threat and shooting in his trial. And they also had another witness on an armed robbery against Damon. You could tell from the unused material that Carla Shipton, there was an armed robbery, and Carla Shipton was Dean Bichelle's girlfriend, and she worked at a snooker club. And she let Damon into the snooker club before it was robbed. And it was all blacked out in the material, but you could see that the police had her as a witness, and Damon knew the potential of she could come to court and give evidence against that offence. So when Damon realised that that the prosecution had evidence to prove that Dean was an informant, he had potentially further charges of the threats coming into his case, then an armed robbery coming into his case. He's just out of pure desperation thought, well, the only get out of his jail card I've got here is Ricky. The police suggested Ricky did it, and if I've got to go with that because it's just the safest option. And if I say Ricky done the threats and I witnessed him do it, I get a free pass on that. So you and Damon are in jail you're in for perverting the course of justice. Am I right at this point? Yeah.
And Damon's.
And the evidence against me, Kevin, and Kate was that you wasn't in the flat when you said you was because Kevin's phone was phoning Damon's phone. You don't do that if you're in a one-bedroom flat. But as I said, the reason why Kevin's phone was phoning Damon's phone was because Damon was expecting a call from Dean that night.
Yeah.
And he wanted to know where his phone was, so he just wanted to drop call it to see if it was down the back of the sofa or something,
Yeah. So, but what was Damon charged? Was Damon charged with the murder while you were on perverting the course of justice and Kate?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So
when obviously I want to get Andy to speak in a minute because I think it's crucial. So while you're in there, you both know they haven't got a case because obviously their info or intel is completely wrong. Neither you or Damon really are going to get sentenced for it because obviously it's two other people that haven't even been mentioned yet. So when did it all turn? Because obviously I want everyone to realise at this point you couldn't read and write either, could you? At this stage, before prison, you could not read or write. So you wasn't reading material that was coming to you. It was really in the hands of the defence team, right?
Yeah.
That was oversighted as well, wasn't it? There was mistakes made by the defence team.
I couldn't read and write at the time, and because we knew that the police just had so much wrong information, and they were flip-flopping. At 1 minute it was me, now it's Damon, and the truth wasn't even mentioned. And all the evidence that they had against Damon, which was Damon used the phone box outside the allotments to call his wife. We knew that wasn't the case. We knew that was Mr. B. The fact that the prosecution was saying that you weren't in the flat together because Kevin's phone was phoning Damon's phone. We knew that Damon was in that flat. So it was and again, they're saying that the time of death was at 11 o'clock because there was a man that heard 3 gunshots at 11 o'clock. So that was when they was putting their time of death. Well, we discovered after the reason this person who gave evidence to that effect that they heard 3 gunshots and said that he was he was in the army and he had a lot of military background experience, and he'd been involved in firearms. He knows what a handgun sounds like, and it come from a handgun. and the prosecution said that it was never disclosed that Dean Bichelle had been shot with a handgun, and at the time it was never disclosed that Dean was shot in the head 3 times. So this evidence become quite reliable in regards to the time of death. And we discovered after my trial had finished that this person had never been in the armed forces, never fired a gun,
wow.
and was a compulsive liar, and he was basically a steward or something like that, a steward on a boat. He worked for the Royal Navy, and he was one of these sort of he was a caterer.
I do remember
on the Navy.
I remember him giving that evidence, Ricky. I remember that in the courtroom was one of the things with him saying that, yeah, he definitely knew it was a handgun, and I remember that distinctly.
Did the defence not pull it apart though? Rick,
No, because we wasn't aware that he'd never been in the army.
Wow.
We wasn't aware.
Wow.
Yeah, we had to take it as gospel. Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
So unfortunately, we wasn't armed with that information.
Okay, so Dean's been shot at this evening, this particular night, right? So he's an informant. So the old Bill, surely, knowing that he works for Damon, go and nick Damon that night or the next day, or do they nick you? Like what was the next move of the old Bill for that? Because they must have nicked someone straight away because he's an informant, and if he's an informant against a particular person, they would know where to start, right? Is that about right, or have I got that wrong?
Yeah, well, none of us was. The murder happened in 2001.
Yeah,
and I think we wasn't arrested till 2004.
Wow.
For the murder, yeah.
So
it was.
Sorry, Rick. Sorry, I just want to be very clear for the audience. They left it like 3 years when they know he's basically his best friend, business partner, however he's Damon, right? So that would be right. So let me just ask Andy. Andy, for me, common sense prevails, right, and says Damon is the first port of call. The day Dean's shot, surely they should go and test Damon's hands.
Yeah, you would think so. And I've got a couple of questions to Ricky as well. So, Ricky, I know that Damon's phone was buzzing in the cell site in that area. There's no evidence whatsoever that put you at scene in Manchester Drive, did it?
No.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. And the other thing as well is I picked up when you said, so I've always said, and I think we said that in the previous podcast, that the 3 shots to Dean, as you know, I'm an ex-firearms officer and I did serve in the military as well.
And this is actually true.
Yeah. Generally, when you shoot, you would generally do a double tap, and I always believed that whoever fired the shots, the first 2 would have been done by one person, and then the third shot would be like a brotherhood. But what you're saying is Mr. A did the first shot, and the other 2 shots were done by Damon, which I've seen the pictures. Obviously, I had to because I was part of the case looking after Damon at the time. But I was never aware of that it was that way that you've described it, Ricky, that it was Mr. A, shot 1, shot 2 and 3 was Damon. But how did you know that?
I was told by all the people that were involved in it.
Yeah.
I was told directly.
So just a point for you, I was surprised, and I mean, obviously I heard a lot because obviously I was sitting with Damon downstairs in the cells waiting, and obviously he was reading all his paperwork, and you do get a report, and I was very surprised that basically what's got you convicted is purely of somebody else that, as you know, he turned Queens and had to give all that evidence. And I don't know if you remember, one of the things that he forgot to do, which he told me that we then had to report, was the fact of an incident in Rochford where you 2 were watching the ticket man out the window and you shot him up the arse with an air gun, which Damon had forgot to tell when he gave Queens and obviously gave out his evidence. So that was something else that he then had to go and report back to the detectives because he had forgotten to give that information.
Yeah. I've never. The thing is, I've never seen that evidence. I mean, the crucial thing about that is whatever he said to you. I mean, this is all fresh evidence to me. I mean, my legal team were never given that evidence. we was never aware of that information. So I don't know if this was because the only time an air rifle was ever mentioned during Damon's debriefing was actually when he accused me of shooting someone with that air rifle. And so I don't know if Damon's messed up, admitted to something he has accused me of, or the fact that he didn't declare something that he did, not knowing that it would come to light. But regardless, either way, I have never been privileged to have that information until you've told me, and neither did the jury get to hear it. So, I mean, I think that that's quite crucial, actually.
I think there's a lot of stuff that has been deliberately left out. Like, so if I can just cut in and get Andy a bit more involved here. Like, Andy, what was it like?
Yeah.
What did Damon tell you? Like, what was it like? Because there's certain procedures you have to follow as well. I think in the last podcast we did, you were like, me and Damon almost become friends because you were with him every single day, and you obviously just believed whatever he said because why not? It's not like you're there to pick sides of Ricky or Damon or whoever is involved. So you're in. Talk us through it. What's it like? Are you in a room with him? Like, what does he say? Like, what's he like?
So I was selected, if you like, by the command team to look after Damon, and he was staying at a cell in South Wooden Ferries. He was staying in a cell in South Wooden Ferries where we'd pick him up every day, and then we'd take him to the courtroom and I'd be with him. It's almost like a continuity of evidence, really. So he'd be in his cell, all his paperwork around him, then we'd pick him up, I'd sign him out, so I'm literally signing for him, take him to Chelmsford. He would then go in the cells downstairs at Chelmsford.
Who gives him paperwork? Sorry.
It would have been his legal team.
His legal team has that paper and they give it directly
and he had loads of paperwork, loads and loads, wads and wads of it. And then he would be in the cell, and then when I turned up for duty with the rest of the firearms team, we'd get him out the cell, and it was like a canteen area, it was like a rest area, so it wasn't in the cell. We had him in this room, and there was a sofa, and me and Damon sat on the sofa all day talking about the case, if you like, and everything else.
He would actually talk about it?
Yeah, he was talking about it. He would also talk about, that's one day he was talking about the ticket man in Rochford where he shot him on the arse out the window and was laughing about it, and then realised that when obviously he had to give out everything, when you turn Queens you have to give all the crimes, he hadn't given that, so obviously we had to report back. Wow. And that had to be given to the team as well, which I don't know what they would do because that wasn't my specialist area.
Yeah. Did you tell them?
I told them as well, because at the end of the day I had to be debriefed up at Boreham of things I'd said, but they already knew that, so we've already spoken about probably there was possibly people listening in to me, my opinion, so they had already known what was going on. I was given a subsistence every day, so I'd then go out, ask Damon what he wanted, and then I think tuna salad he liked, so I'd go out and get him crisp food, drink, and then go back, and then when he went upstairs, I don't know if you remember, Ricky, that Damon was always wearing body armour when he was in the dock.
No, I obviously he had a suit underneath, so it was obviously underneath his suit.
Is that standard procedure for someone to wear body armour in a courtroom?
I've never seen that before.
I've never.
I was wearing body armour in the courtroom as well.
Yeah,
I was his
obviously
bodyguard.
that's tactical gear, right?
Yeah.
But so in the courtroom. Sorry, Rick, is there anything you want to ask before we leave Andy's actual position with Damon? Is there anything you want to ask?
When we asked Damon, what was, because when we said to Damon that, he's obviously chose the safest route for him, and he's getting a lot from doing what he's doing, basically, and we said like his living conditions. Obviously, where I was in prison, he was living somewhere with better living conditions, and Damon said outright, no, they're much worse than prison. Where he was kept, where he was debriefed, was much, much worse than prison, and that's what he told the jury. Well, is that true?
So I know when I then picked him up and used to take him to prison, he was in a cell. So South Wooden Ferries was a place where we would take people in these sort of cases, and it didn't happen very often, but South Wooden Ferries was out the way, and that's where he was staying. That cell as far as I saw, he had an open door. There was one custody officer there because obviously he was out ready to, for trial. But he had it very easy there. And from my understanding, he also had, if he wanted a takeaway, they'd go and get him a takeaway. But you had one custody officer, a DO, detention officer, and Damon, and that was the only people in the block. So I would say he had it easy, apart from the fact that it was in, like a police station, but he's in the cells area. He had it quite easy, actually.
Was he allowed conjugal visits? Claire, was he allowed his wife in there?
I believe Claire did go there. I do believe Claire did go there.
Yeah, because that would be interesting to know if he had conjugal visits, because there's certainly one thing you don't get when you're in jail.
Right. Yeah, and
yeah.
Speaking from experience as well, those cells, there is nothing to them, so you can't really say they're worse than a prison cell, because they're literally a blue mat on a bit of cement, which you spend a night in. Most average, some people do, some people don't, but they're not like horrendous conditions. You're not shared with 12 people.
No, and also
he's got the door open, right?
And he was getting the food that he wanted as well. I know,
which they don't tend to do, like
in prison.
So no, they don't do. You can't order a fucking takeaway from a jail cell.
No,
but yeah. So he's basically being very well looked after for giving information on Rick, right?
Yeah.
And he's allowed his wife to visit. Mm-hmm. It ain't the end of the world, is it?
No.
Sorry, Rick, was there anything? Sorry, I was just finding this fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, so I know that, they sold his house. I know his house and his cars. They sold it all, and they got him top money for his vehicles. They didn't give him trade value for the cars that they sold or his house. They went and whatever the top money for any car that he owned, which he owned about 4 or 5, they sold on a top value, give him that, sold him his house, give that. So he ended up with a good couple of $100,000 in his back pocket, and it was all stems from drug dealing.
And the money in the washing machine as well, Rick.
I was just bringing that up. It was the money in the washing machine. They sold his house. So what was reported, and again, Rick, you'll know better than both of us, or maybe not, maybe just me, because Andy was there, but it was something like 240 grand, wasn't it? Something like that. But that included the money that was found in the washing machine, the house that had, was sold, and he got to keep every penny, providing he stuck to pointing the finger at you, right?
Yeah, they sort of they looked after him. Mm. So give him a new passport, a new identity, whatever they do, and just said thank you very much, Mr. Alvin. Enjoy.
So just to be very, very clear where we're at, Essex Police basically just took the opportunity to put you in prison by bartering effectively with Damon and saying, if you just say it was Rick for whatever, and we'll just let you get away with all the crimes you've ever committed, which they actually have evidence with, and they've got nothing on you. They've arrested you before. They've tested you for gun residue, etc. Nothing's coming back. So they're obviously, the police must have been pissed and wanted you. Because they don't do well. I say they don't do this. It's actually more regular now, isn't it, Andy, than we like to see. But it is a case of going, well, you can have everything and you can walk away. All you got to do is say it was you, and unfortunately, that was you. It became you, but with no evidence. It was based around just verbal from someone that was known to be a liar, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And I was sorry, something just popped in. I wanted to ask Andy this as well. Being at the firearms side of things, that after because the prosecution were always saying the murder happened at 11, and they were basing that on this man that says he heard the gunshots. And then there's a phone box which said that they believe Damon was using, and so they was all saying that it all happened around this time. But after my trial had finished, I was a bit, because I know that Dean was shot. The first 2 shots were at point blank. Sorry, the first one was at a distance, and the second 2 shots were at point blank range. And I had a ballistics expert do a reconstruction on the sound, And they said that the sound from a gun, if you're shooting someone from like a metre or so away, has a different sound to if you were to put the muzzle point blank with pressure against someone's head. It would act as a sort of as a muffle, as a like a bit of a silencer, and change the sound completely. And that was something that I asked to be tested, and the ballistics expert, his name was called David Dyson. I think he was the same ballistics expert that done that man that there was a farm that got robbed, and the man shot the two burglars and killed them.
Yeah.
Can you remember that
I
case?
do remember that, yes. Yeah.
Anyway, that is irrelevant anyway, but he was a ballistics expert. It was a big thing many years ago. A farmer got convicted for murder, and he just shot two intruders. But David Dyson was the expert on that case, a ballistics expert. But I've employed him, and he's confirmed that when you do put the gun to the to somebody's head, it has a different sound. Would you agree with that, Andy?
I totally agree with that. Also, Ricky, the other side of it, if a gun is put, because it was a revolver, the other thing as well with that, if you put a gun close to an object, then the entry point is going to only be the size of the bullet. Does that make sense? But further away, with the velocity of that bullet, it would be bigger. So that's why it'd be neat holes on the entry and bigger holes on the exit as well. But most definitely, if a stubby revolver was put against somebody's head or against something, it would definitely be a lot quieter, and it would muffle a lot as well. Yeah.
Because there was a witness that said that at 2:00 in the morning she heard a great big bang, like a firework that went off, and then she said that followed by two like big like crackling sounds as if someone was snapping a fence, like the followed straight like a big crackle, and this was at 2:00 in the morning. Which was obviously completely not what the prosecution was suggesting, but a ballistics expert was saying, well, this does tally up for someone putting a one shot and which a distance and then the two shots at a point blank, yeah.
So basically, Essex Police basically found a narrative and made it work, right? Basically got the right people to say the right thing at the right time. But if that was today, that would, well, obviously Rick, now you can read and write with a different defence team. That trial would never, so let's talk about the theatrics. There was 35, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was 35 armed response in the courtroom.
You did have to bring other shifts on, and there was people, so around the back, actually outside where the cars would drive on. I don't know if you remember that, Rick. There was obviously armed guards there with the MP5s, and it was all in our blues then.
So this is outside, in the courtroom, hallways,
and in the judge's chambers where the judge come out, there was firearms officers patrolling the corridor as well. Right, so Ricky wouldn't have been aware of that.
So Rick's not aware of that. Obviously, I only know from Rick about the 35 in the courtroom. So Rick, this must be like, what the fuck? Because what intelligence, what things were you told that warranted that much? Like that's like taxpayers' money for Rick, who's on a trial for something that they don't really have a lot of evidence. They're just going with this supergrass. They don't need that many people to protect Damon just to get his story right. What were you lot told?
Well, and now, I mean, obviously, as I've already said at the start, that Ricky and Damon were portrayed as the new Ronnie and Reggie Cray. But it all makes sense. Years later, you look, and of course, it's two birds with one stone, really, isn't it? You know, if they are Ronnie and Reggie Cray and they're doing well on Ricky's admission alone that, you know, he's dealing drugs, well, what better way to do it? Get somebody to grass on somebody else, so he gets a new identity, and then Ricky goes away for a number of years. It's job solved, isn't it?
Yeah, but what I'm trying to figure out, and Rick, I don't want to spend too long on the topic, but I really want to figure out for your knowledge as well as the audience's, why that many fucking armed spot? Like, who was so dangerous that they thought was going to? Like, I don't even think fucking terrorists have that, do they? Yeah,
possibly nowadays, but back then, And why was Damon wearing body armour in the courtroom?
Yeah, it's for effect,
For effect, isn't it?
It's for effect, which, to be honest, I think that leads us really on to the next point. Like the things that they convicted you of, Rick. Didn't they say that you tried to bribe, or not you tried, you were alleged to bribe some poor guy that actually basically stood up and said, no one's ever bribed me. And even his mum testified that, didn't she? And they still found you guilty.
Yeah.
Do you think that was really, like, all of that was based on the fact that it looked so bad for you, as in all the stuff the police had put on? Like, it was a big show, wasn't it? It was not a necessary show for what it actually was. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Over the top.
I
right?
must also say, from what I'd heard about Ricky before I saw him for the first time in the courtroom, I was very surprised the level it was at, because, no disrespect to you, Ricky, I know you used to train and you're a strong man, but he didn't look the menacing person as portrayed. Does that make sense?
So in your briefings and stuff, Rick was portrayed to be some lunatic.
Basically, a gun nut.
Okay, so Rick was very capable of but not in a fucking courtroom. Everyone's searched. And you go through detection.
Something else that, again, that Ricky has made me aware of is I always thought that Dean was Ricky's mate, if you like, and the one that, he was the lap man, the Joey to Ricky.
But not to Damon.
I know Damon and Rick. I know Damon and Dean met in prison, and it's known that Dean looked up to Damon, didn't he?
Yeah.
But I wasn't aware that really Ricky didn't have a lot of contact with Dean. Which
just goes to show you the level of fucking bullshit basically Essex Police come up with, because they give you information which wrongly, you guys are human, you form an opinion. So then you go into it thinking you're doing the right thing by protecting someone that really isn't fucking telling the truth.
Yeah.
And the law, this is where the law doesn't work. You can't put a gun to someone else's head and go, look, say it was him over there, and that's justice, because it's not. I don't know if you agree with that, but that's how I feel it went for Ricky. I just feel like you lot were told one story, and so you lot are there paid to protect a person you think is doing the right thing. But actually, what would you lot have done if you all had the right information?
I was, and this is not being condescending to you, Ricky, but I was always aware that Ricky couldn't read or write. He's a clever man, and obviously, if you can't read and write, you've got other skills, haven't you?
Look at Richard Branson.
Yeah, exactly. And I know Ricky's a clever man, but Damon could read and write, and I was surprised, really, that it was being made out then that Ricky was the main man, if you like, not Damon. In this trial, do you know what I mean?
So basically, Rick, tell me if I'm right, but you didn't have the opportunity to read the paperwork, obviously, because you couldn't read and write, but Damon could easily manipulate, because he could read all the papers from the prosecution or the police, whatever, and with all the things they know that they were feeding him or coaching him over the years to do with you, it was like a perfect opportunity, wasn't it? Would you say that? Would you put it that way?
Yeah. I mean, it was. He did study it. I mean, the prison officers even at Chelmsford said that his cell was like an investigation room with certain questions on the wall and flashcards and stuff like that. So he did go do his own work. Obviously, he'd done his own work.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the actual court case itself. Like, what was it like, Rick?
Yeah, it was the court case. Well, for example, there was a witness that I got accused of paying money not to attend court, and this witness was never a threat to me. He was actually a witness against Damon, not me. But anyway. Because this witness has said that Dean Rochelle had used his phone on the night of the murder to call Damon. So Damon said that this witness, it was in my interest for this witness not to attend court, because then they couldn't show that Dean had phoned Damon that night. So Damon was saying that I've offered this person £4,000 not to attend court. And this witness stood up in court, and the QC said, has anyone been to see you off your money? No. And the prosecution went to cross-examine. Prosecution said no cross-examine whatsoever, and I still got found guilty of it. So, you know, if you're going to get convicted on things like that, then you're going to be. There's not much hope, is there, on anything else?
No. If people are getting up and telling the truth and saying, and they've got a history of no lying, then you expect the right thing. But
and it's like the cannabis robbery as well. It's like because it didn't actually exist, so Damon couldn't give a location or a person or an actual place, or because it was fantasy, it was made up just to get Dean out on the meat, as I said. So, but one of my charges was conspiring to steal from an unknown place the goods of an unknown value from an unknown person, and I still got 4 years for that.
And didn't you get another 5 for the weapon that again, for the imaginary place that didn't exist, that didn't you get 5 for that as well?
I got 5 years for the gun on the Trenton shoot, the pump action shotgun. I think I got 5 years or 7 years for that.
Right.
What was about with the Trettons was that what's very frustrating was that after my court case had finished, I started to learn how to read and write going education. I've literally started from scratch, so I started to pick up my case papers, and I was able to then go through my case paper. Like, I'll go through what Damon had said to the police for his debriefing period, which is, as I think Andrew can explain, that you've got a 6-month window to declare all of your criminal activities within that window. And that's right, and then you sign the contract to say that's your contract.
Yeah.
Is that right, Andrew?
Yeah. You basically sign when you're turning Queens, you do sign into a contract, don't you, that you're going to basically declare everything. But yeah, that's right.
Yeah, within a certain time frame, and so that was the heart and soul of my case, because there was no evidence other than Damon's word. So that should have just been, thoroughly investigated everything he said within them 6 months worth of interviews. Well, unfortunately, my QC and barrister I can't knock them. They were very good, but they left the job to read them interviews down to a trainee solicitor at the time, and she's read all these interviews and she's not picked up any inconsistencies, any lies, any contradictions whatsoever. So my legal team couldn't put anything to Damon about really what was said within that 6 months debrief. Well, when I was going through it, I could see things that were lies, contradictions, inconsistent, and it was I couldn't believe it, that the only evidence against me was Damon, and I could show that he was being completely, consistently inconsistent. And I tried showing this to my new legal team, and they said, well, this isn't fresh evidence. You had this available at trial and you didn't use it. And I said, it's not because we chose not to use it. It's just been overlooked by poor workmanship. And they said, well, unless your solicitor's going to admit to incompetence, you don't stand a chance. So I couldn't really get my head around that. And that's what I started to get. It affected my health to the degree where I developed an autoimmune disease over the stress of that alone. So that was the most frustrating part. And what was more frustrating when you look at the Trenton shooting as well, that the debriefing officers that interviewed Alvin, they're not stupid people, but they just seem to just skim over the fact that what Damon was saying just didn't have a ring of truth to it. Because, for example, it was like 2 weeks before that he said he had no involvement in the Trenton shooting, but 2 weeks prior to the shooting took place, he said he had an unexpected visit. Someone knocked at his door they had a pump-action shotgun saying, I can't find Dean Bichelle, but you're his friend. Could you pass this to Dean? So Damon's took it. As I say, if you've got no involvement, it's very unlikely that something like that's going to be delivered to your door. And then on the night of the actual shooting took place on the Tretons, Damon says he was in the pub just socialising, and me and Dean arrived. We've told Damon what we were doing that night, and we were just about to go off to do that. And Damon said, "Oh, can I have a lift home? Because I live that way." So he said he's got into the car. As we're driving towards the Tretons, the police have seen us in the car. The car was stolen, so we've fled the vehicle. Dean Bichelle was sprained his ankle, and then I've talked Damon into being the getaway driver. He's accepted. Me and Damon have then drove to the Tretons. I've gone to the Tretons' house. I'm taking a long while, so Damon said that he got out the car, went to the Tretons' house to see what was going on, and he said he stood outside and watched me kick the door down, go in and shoot everyone, didn't enter the house. But the witnesses in the house see two people, and even my QC said to Damon, "Did you enter that house?" He says, "No." He says, "Well, why are the witnesses saying there were two people in the house?" He said, "Well, this is Damon, if you look at the banisters, you'll see a coat at the end of the banisters. Well, maybe they mistook that for a person." And the QC said, "Was that banister wearing a balaclava as well?"
I remember that, Ricky.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, Ricky, sorry to interrupt you, but they swabbed your hands almost after that, and you had no ballistics on whatsoever. And if you was even involved or anywhere near there, they would have found ballistics on you, especially multiple rounds being fired in a small room, and obviously it's clothing and all that. So what evidence did they use to charge you for the Treton shooting? Because I was always under the impression that it was Damon Alvin and Dean Bichelle that did the Treton shooting.
Yeah, there was three people involved in that, and Dean being one of them, the other person, or Damon and another one. Mm-hmm. But obviously don't want to go into that person. But there was obviously three people involved in that.
Yeah. But and that's the thing, though, Ricky. You wasn't there. You wasn't there, was you?
I see the three people after the event.
Yeah.
And I was meant to leave the keys underneath the second vehicle. I was meant to leave the keys outside, and I forgot to do it. So basically, they've knocked at the door and asked me for the keys for the second vehicle. Of the night straight after it happened. But with regards to the actual Damon's account on the Tretons, when he says that he didn't enter the house at all, but the witnesses see two people, he says that after the shooting, we've got into the vehicle, we've drove away, and then he says that I've then washed myself with white spirit, and Damon says that my face was like red raw, and I was complaining about the pain, because the white spirit had been burning the skin. And as I said, when I was actually arrested, I was swabbed for any chemicals, and a photograph was taken of me, and my skin wasn't blistered or sore or red, and no one commented about my skin. And I know it sounds really stupid, but I can remember, do you know when they take the scrapings underneath your nails?
Yeah.
I remember that my nails were actually rotten, and I remember them taking that so much gunk underneath my nails, I felt embarrassed. I felt like a scumbag. And I literally filled up the pot with like finger, whatever was under my fingers. And I know that it's just that I very much doubt that they've got them pots. But if I would have done this like sanitary type, there's very very little chance I would have had so much underneath my nails as well.
And the chemicals would have shown up as well, wouldn't they, under your nails?
Yeah, and and then after the actual shooting happened, Damon said that when I was because Damon was aware that I was arrested for this, and Damon went back to, obviously, sorry, I forgot to mention this, after the shooting actually happened, Damon said that that we drove to a bit of a storm drain where I've dropped the gun down the drain, or he's dropped the gun, one of us, he says he can't remember, and the drain was left, the car was left there, the gun was down the drain, and we've left that vehicle, he says we've left that getaway car. But that same day, Damon was aware that the police had recovered the getaway vehicle, and he still went to the drain trying to look for that gun, even though he believed that the drain was under surveillance. My point here is that the debriefing officers that interviewed Damon about this, I don't understand why they didn't say to Damon, why is it that you had no involvement in this crime, but you just happened to have the gun dropped off to your house? You just happened to be in Ricky and Dean's company the night that it was going to happen, just happened to ask for a lift home. Oh, then Dean sprains his ankle. Then you get roped into being a getaway driver. You say you don't enter the house, but people see you wearing the house. Why do getaway drivers wear balaclavas? And then the last piece of it is that why are you trying to retrieve a gun from a storm drain if you had nothing to do with you got roped into being a getaway driver at the last minute? It just doesn't, any normal person would say that just doesn't have any ring of truth to it whatsoever.
It doesn't add up, does it?
I think my hypothesis, which is a very policey word, Ricky, is the fact that what they're then trying to do is, excuse the pun, load the gun to then fire against you. And that, and obviously we're talking about this, and it's the luxury of now being able to talk in hindsight. It seems like they're just loading up to then fire the gun to fire absolutely everything against you.
And have someone that makes it fit, right?
And we'll have Damon to make it fit to set you up.
Yeah.
Because again, I mean, obviously, I know from the night, and I found that interesting, that there was no evidence against you, nothing at all putting you at scene on the night of Dean's murder, nothing at all. No telephones, nothing is there. There's nothing putting you at scene at all. Which, and I was like, even in my mind, wow.
So it must have been horrendous for you to, even at the time, to just be standing there. I know you've got a job to do at this time. I know reflection's a wonderful thing, but at the time, you must be standing there thinking, this don't fucking make sense. At the time, did that cross your mind?
The first time I met Ricky, obviously, was in the courtroom when he was in the dock.
Yeah.
He looked nothing, and don't take this the wrong way, Ricky, you was a young man then, but you was nothing of what I expected. I expected a big, nasty beast of a man, but actually he's just a young...
regular guy.
Regular looking bloke, a normal man, just a normal man. He wasn't the beast, I suppose, that was painted about him.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, this has bothered me for years, to be fair, Ricky. It has, because, even when I was serving, the last thing I'd ever want is somebody that's innocent, and you've admitted yourself you wasn't totally innocent in life, but you certainly haven't done some of the things that you've been accused of as well.
It's just not right. That's the reality of it. It's just not right to convict someone on the word of someone that is a known liar. That's the reality. But Rick...
Yeah.
You haven't sat and moaned and cried and woe is me. You've got on with shit. Like you said, you've turned it into as much of a positive as you can. You can now read and write. Please tell everyone what you've achieved in there and where you are now with it.
Yeah. Well, initially when I was able to learn how to read and write, it was a blessing and a curse in disguise, because when I could then learn to read, I could then start to read Damon's debriefing interviews.
Yeah.
And that made me ill. So, because I could then see what Damon was saying, which wasn't adding up. And so as a result of that, I wasn't sleeping properly. And all the stress of that cortisol keep running through my body, for 1 year into the next. I ended up losing weight hand over fist and going to the doctor saying there's something wrong. I'm always my body's always sore. I don't sleep. My stomach's in knots. They was keep telling me there was nothing wrong with me. It's all in the head. And I actually paid for my own doctor at one point because I was that concerned. You can't feel this bad and tell me that there's nothing okay. So then I got diagnosed with this fibromyalgia, which is like constant fatigue, brain fog, muscle soreness, and they said there's no cure for it other than just a lifelong medication. And the medication was just making me feel worse. And I ended up taking a natural, I thought, well, this wasn't in me a few years ago. I've done something to myself. I don't know what I've done, but I've created this disease. And what I learned is that when you're not at ease, it does create disease. So then I had to untangle all of this mess that's gone on in my body. And it's all. And I always thought it was just food, so I experimented with different diets, like the ketogenic diet, the carnivore diet, just trying to take down all the inflammation in my body. And none of these things worked. And the last thing I wanted to try to do was a full plant-based diet, because veganism was like, who doesn't eat meat, and all stuff. Anyway, and the only thing that I didn't want to do, I tried, and it worked, and it started to work better than anything else. Wow. It was a full plant-based diet, not a crappy processed vegan diet. So then I started doing this Wim Hof breathing, cold showers, started to meditate. I was reading some spiritual books, and I just started to untangle all this mess. And I went and I got 4 level 4 diplomas, all passed with distinction, which is equivalent to A levels. And so it was all of these things that sort of went wrong. They're like blessings in disguise because I've learned so much from it. Yeah. And so, don't ever judge the moment, because although all this shit's happened to me, it's definitely changed me entirely as a person, my mindset. I'm just, I'm much more content and at peace with everything and everyone, and I'm in a good place now, which is crazy considering where I am.
But not only that, you've done, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, you've done 20 years, right? And you've got to do, you've only got a few years left.
Another seven.
Another 7 to do.
I don't even look at it as in that's an issue now.
No.
I've just completely accepted it. And, if something happens sooner, great. If it doesn't, I'm okay with that, Yeah. Always being, always looking at having resentment against stuff just ain't good. And if you can't change it, just let go of it. And I've learned to do that, and it's a lot easier said than done. It takes a lot of persevering, but even with Damon, I'll never forget what he's done, but you can forgive, and anyone's capable of doing that. And because I know Damon doesn't dislike me, and Damon didn't do this because he had a problem or an issue with me. He was just forced into a position where he felt he had to do it. Yeah. And I was just the only get out of jail card for him. Yeah. And it was a survival mechanism that created him into doing what he done.
Wow, that's
quite remarkable, actually.
It's powerful, isn't it?
It is.
It's really powerful.
Yeah, I'll take my hat off to you there, Rick.
Yeah, there's some doing to be able to just, like you said, just forgive.
You'll never forget.
Sorry, not forget. Forgive.
When you've got no emotion to the story no more, you're over it.
Yeah.
There's no more suffering.
And you've
it's just a story
it.
that you can tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm able to tell it with no charge going through me. Obviously, I've got preferences. What I'd like to be out. I'd like all this to be it. But as I say, I'm not basing my happiness on that things have to be this way for me to be okay. I've just got so used to learning to be okay with not being okay.
Yeah.
And it's life. It just transcends, all of that baggage that's been inside me.
Yeah, that's powerful, isn't it? Really powerful.
Yeah.
Well, look, Rick, thanks so much for calling. It was it's really interesting to hear all of it and how you've turned it around as well and made it work for you, even though it's not the ideal circumstances. It's like a really powerful message. So thank you so much for calling.
Thanks, Ricky.
And letting us hear it. But we'll speak soon.
Brilliant. Just one last thing that I wanted to say to Andy is I got obviously as well that if anyone wants to hear, obviously I should imagine there'll be a lot of people asking a lot of questions that maybe I haven't answered but Bernard Mahoney wrote a book. I give Bernard Mahoney my case papers on my case. So he covers a big aspect of my case. It's obviously it is a very good and reliable read, which is Essex Boys, the New Generation. I would say to anyone, if they wanted to learn anything about my case, to read that book rather than watch a film, because the film they did about me, not even I will watch it. It's terrible. I will recommend anyone to watch that. And
it may actually be, Ricky, it may actually be that another podcast is done off the back of this, because this is the first time that people out there would have heard your voice and spoken about this, and there could be still some answered questions, couldn't there, that people want to ask? And there is actually just one thing that I want to say, is that I'm aware you did a lot. Well, this is through the grapevines, that you did a lie detector test and actually passed that. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's something that I've heard.
The guy that did it he was a chairman of the Polygraph Association. So he explained to me that I think it was like over 98% of people that he sees in prison fail this test. He says, but he said that the method that he uses and the instruments that he uses, like pharmaceutical grade equipment, and his techniques are the most reliable that you can get in regards to taking a polygraph test. And I said with I think it's about 95% accuracy according to him. And I passed that.
Wow. And the question was actually asked, wasn't it? Did you shoot Dean Bushell? And you passed that.
Yeah. Was it? It was. Yeah. Did I shoot Dean Bushell? And did I have any knowledge prior to the shooting that it was going to happen? And was I there when the shooting happened? And I was obviously no, and I passed it. Yeah.
It's just, to be honest, I think we could talk about this story for hours and hours on end, because it's just phenomenal. Yeah. And there's something that wasn't mentioned that just came to my memory. There's a police officer again that was mentioned for corruption. I don't. Again, you guys might know more than me whether he's still serving or not. John something. It was all false. Like the things that were being portrayed for you, saying it was you bribed or paying him off or something, and none of that was true either. It was, you haven't even really met the man, and so John Morang. I think he was in charge with the investigation to Dean Bushell's murder at one point, and Damon accused me of having a crop relationship with him. The jury heard all about this as well. And have you ever spoke to John Morang about this, Andy?
So we can get a bit of understanding. John Morang was a DS at Raleigh Police Station, and he was a handler that handled Chizzy's confidential human intelligence sources. And it's my understanding, from what I remember, and I'm sure that it was Damon put this up, that you was talking to John Morang and giving him information. And I think that's how they tried to turn it, was the fact that you spoke to John was giving you information, and then you had said something and you knew it had been Dean that had said it because you'd only said that to John. Does that make sense? That he was basically testing the source, if you like.
Yeah, all I know is that I only met John on one occasion, and this was because John Moran was a chairman of Basildon Football Club, and so was one of my friends, Kim Webber, and I was with Kim, and we was in Tar Pots. We was going to go and have a bit of lunch or breakfast. Me and Kim, I was just walking down the street, and John Moran just happened to be there just by coincidence. And we just said hello, and Kim found it quite funny, saying, "Oh, John Moran, this is John Moran, sorry, this is Ricky." And John made a comment about my suntan, and I just think it was because I was always on the sunbeds, I was always on holiday, so I was always brown. And I'm not sure if he was taking the piss out of my suntan, or he was telling me I need a holiday because I'm hot and I'm being looked at. And that was the only thing that he said to me. Other than that, I've never had no contact or any dealings with that John Moran at all. Although Damon says otherwise. And I know that, I don't know if John would be willing to talk to you about this as well, because I should imagine he's got nothing to hide as well.
Look, Rick, thank you so much, mate. I'm so pleased that you're able to live the way you live now. Like, you seem to have found what works for you, and I think that's really inspiring for anyone like listening and watching. Is no matter what cards you're dealt, you can find a positive from it. And genuinely, I hope you're out sooner rather than the full term. But let's just see what happens. But it's inspiring to know that you come to terms and you're at peace either way. Like, that's really comforting. And we will speak soon, no doubt. Take care, mate.
Right. Well, cheers, Andy, for
Thanks, Rick,
giving us the time of day.
Yeah, thank you, mate.
Take care, mate. See you soon.
Cheers,
All
Rick.
right,
Bye.
see ya.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow. So now you know
I've
from the
learned
horse's mouth.
I've learned
now
a
we
few
all know
things.
from the horse's mouth. What the fuck?
That's opened my eyes to a few things as well. I knew a lot of what Rick has said, but there's other things that have opened my eyes there as well. I know that there was no evidence that put him there, and it was purely Damon that put him on that Manchester drive. But, you know, even with how Rick's saying he could have spilled his beans and said, "Oh, Mr. A being so-and-so, so-and-so," he's still got the courtesy to not get involved. He just wants his quiet life. Which is
just amazing. To learn to read and write, go through the paperwork, realise what his own team's missed. Like, that's a lot to live with. No wonder he got sick. You know,
the other side that I'm really impressed with as well, Matt, is the fact that there was nothing negative come out of Ricky's mouth. We can walk out of here today, listen to the birds, watch the cars go down the road. Normal things, we can go shopping, go and get a takeaway. You know, he's been banged up for 20 years. Yes, it's unfortunate that a man has died through being murdered, but I do believe they've got the wrong man.
Yeah, agreed.
But there was nothing negative there. Nothing negative at all, was there? Nothing at all.
You know what? This is what this podcast is about, is you can make the best of the baddest situations.
Yep.
And that's the reality. And Rick's, not only is in jail, he's ill. You know, he has a chronic illness. And that's exactly what this show is about, is being inspired by people. No matter what the background is, it's making it work for you.
Yeah.
And making it a positive.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. Andy, thank you so much for coming on again.
Matt.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you, mate.
Thank you very much.
Hope your neck feels better.
Yeah.
For anyone watching, they're wondering, like, should have
I've got
bought
a stiff
brace.
neck. Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.